Welcome to Sporty Mentality. Today, we're going to be talking about the coaching situations around the NFL, Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh, and much, much more. Before we get into it, guys, be sure to leave a 5-star review on this podcast if you want to support me. And of course, drop a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And without further ado, let's get right into the pod. Okay, I know the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh is very exciting, and we'll get into that. But first, I want to start off with Bill Belichick and the Falcons. So the Falcons today decided that they were going to hire Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, alongside of Sean McVay. I don't hate the hire. I feel like they look at the Texans and like, oh, we can maybe duplicate that, get a hit on the draft with the quarterback, get a young defensive-minded coach who has a thriving defense, and see if we can't make something happen, just like the Texans did this year when they won a playoff game. The Rams didn't win the Falcons didn't win a playoff game. They didn't even make the playoffs, and the Texans did. And the Texans were in the Falcons situation not too long ago. So I feel like they looked at that and they're like, we want to go with the young defensive-minded coach, which is fine, but I don't like the move. You have the greatest coach of all time as a free agent right now, and you just passed on him. This is like the Lamar Jackson thing. I'll never understand it. 15 plus teams could have used Lamar Jackson when he was a free agent and trying to re-sign with the Ravens, and 15 of those teams all passed on him, and the Ravens re-signed him after some, business discussions. Same thing with Bill Belichick here. There's at least 10 plus teams who could have used a new coach this year, and all 10 of them passed on Bill Belichick. That's just the reality of the situation here. Bill Belichick, been to a Super Bowl 9 times, won 6 of them, with the greatest quarterback of all time, had some of the greatest defenses this league has ever seen, and the Falcons just passed on him for a 40-year-old defensive coordinator. I don't hate the move, but I don't despise the move, but I don't like the move. You know what I'm saying? Because they already had a young coach, Arthur Smith. He's offensive-minded coach, so they already tried the young offensive-minded coach. And now they're trying the young defensive-minded coach. But they had Dan Quinn not too long ago, and he was a defensive-minded coach, and he had Matt Ryan alongside him, and they made a Super Bowl. So maybe they're looking at that and being like, oh, maybe we can replicate that, but this time win it. But when you have a great on the table, you do not pass that up as an organization. You just don't do it. That's not something that you should even think about doing. Like, imagine the Buccaneers never went after Tom Brady. They would have never had a Super Bowl. In the last decade, in the last 20, 30 years, whatever it's been. I don't know if they've ever had a Super Bowl in their franchise's career, but they wouldn't have got that Super Bowl if they wouldn't have went after Tom Brady. They could have rebuilt, try to draft young, get a nice young quarterback, pass on Tom Brady, not pay him all that money, but they went in, they got the old guy who everybody thought was washed, and they won a Super Bowl. And at the end of the day, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to make the playoffs for 7 straight years and be mediocre and sell tickets? I guess if that's your goal, but the ultimate goal in this league is to win Super Bowls, and that's what Bill Belichick does. And the fact that the Falcons passed on him for Raheem Morris is absolutely ridiculous, and they will regret that for the rest of that franchise's existence. Mark my word. You do not pass on a great when a great is on the board. You just don't do it. That is not something you do in sports. It's never had a good track record. So yeah, that's my thoughts in the Falcons situation with Bill Belichick. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that they went with the young guy. I know Bill Belichick's 72, but you've seen other press conferences. He still had an elite defense for how bad his team was. He's still sharp-minded. 72 years old is not 72 years old 30 years ago. 72 years old is like what 62 years old was, 15 years ago. 72 years old, he has a good 5 years of coaching left in him. And if you would just draft him, get a solid quarterback, maybe even sign Kirk Cousins as a bridge quarterback, and waited for the right guy, you could have built a miniature dynasty and moved on from Bill in 5 years after he potentially won you a Super Bowl or at least got you to an NFC championship. So that's my thoughts. I want to know your guys' thoughts on that in the comments below as well. Now we'll get into the other coaching situations. So on to the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. I absolutely love this move. Jim Harbaugh is a winner. He's from a winning family, and he knows how to build a football dynasty. 44-19 is what he was in the NFL with the 49ers. He had Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith as his quarterbacks. I don't know if you've known this, but Colin Kaepernick was not that good. Alex Smith was considered to be one of the biggest busts in NFL history, and Jim Harbaugh turned him into a playoff quarterback. a reliable playoff quarterback. So this was a no-brainer on the Chargers end. It was just a matter of how much are they willing to go in on a coach? How much are they willing to pay for a coach? Because they have been known to be a cheap NFL team. Even though they are multi-billionaires, don't get it twisted. They have more money than everybody watching this podcast combined times 10, at least, including your extended families. That's how rich the Chargers are. That's how much money they have. So it was just a matter of how much are they willing to put into the future. And they went big. They got a superstar. And every Super Bowl team ever has had a superstar. And with the Chargers, it happens to be Jim Harbaugh. He is the superstar of that team. And one thing that I found interesting was the guy who loves the Jets, Mike something. He's been a reporter for 30 years. He used to report the Bears back in the 90s. If it comes to me, I'll let you guys know. But anyways, I think it's like Mike Greeny. They call him Greeny. You know what I'm talking about, probably. Anyways, he used to cover the Bears in the 90s, right? And he met Jim Harbaugh at a funeral they had a mutual friend who passed. R.I.P. to that person. I don't know who it is. So they're at this funeral with a mutual friend, and Mike was saying how Jim was talking about the young quarterbacks in the NFL. And this was before, Michigan won the title, that they were even talking about him moving to the NFL. And he said that he thinks Justin Herbert is the best young quarterback by far, and it's not close. So Jim Harbaugh got his dream, and the Chargers got their dream. And if I'm Justin Herbert, I'm having a party right now. Because I just went through a coaching cycle that, with new coordinators every year, a horrible head coach who's a good coordinator, but as a head coach, he just doesn't know how to lead. A little soft, a little ignorant, has some ego. NFL people have egos, but Brandon Staley didn't have a right to have an ego to the media when he was performing like that as a coach. So now, all three parties, Chargers, Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, have to be ecstatic with this move. Now, the problem is they don't have a GM. They're going to have to find a GM. They're already, talking to people who Jim has connections with. But they have a team. They have some solid players. They have a Bosa on the defensive end, or defensive end side of things, They have Keenan Allen, one of my favorite players of all time, one of the best wide receivers to ever touch a football. And they have Justin Herbert, who I think could go down as an all-time great. And those are like the three main things you need: a star wide receiver, star quarterback, star defensive end, and they have a good left tackle as well. So this team has a lot of potential. I could see them making a playoff run next year. I could see them making a Super Bowl run within the next 3 to 4 years, for sure. I could easily see that. Chargers are built to be a dynasty right now. And Jim Harbaugh is the one guy who is a free agent who could do that. Pete Carroll could have done it probably. Bill Belichick definitely could have done it. But Jim Harbaugh is young. He's in his coaching prime. So the Chargers should be ecstatic. If I'm a Chargers fan, I am through the moon right now. The only thing with the Chargers right now is they do have some cap issues. They'll have to let go of some people. They'll probably let go of Khalil Mack and other people like that. But, at the base of the operation, they're looking very good. So good on the Chargers right there. Other head coach openings, we have the Panthers. They just got the offensive coordinator from the Buccaneers. No idea his name. I'm pretty sure it was hard to pronounce for me, so I wouldn't remember it anyways, or wouldn't know how to pronounce it anyways. But you can look it up. The offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers this year, Baker Mayfield. He got Baker Mayfield into the playoffs, helped Baker Mayfield into the playoffs at least, and won a playoff game. Apparently, he worked with Pete Carroll at the Seahawks for a while, and Dan Morgan, who's the new Panthers GM, was at the Seahawks when this offensive coordinator was at the Seahawks. So they have like a 7-year connection there. So Dan Morgan already knew he wanted him to be his head coach, so they hired him. So now you have that connection. You have a team. You have some chemistry in there in that building, which is very key. We'll see what he can do with Bryce Young. They traded their whole entire future for Bryce Young. They believe in that organization that Bryce Young is their future. They believe that with all their hearts. So I like the hire. You weren't going to get a Ben Johnson. You weren't going to get a Bill Belichick. You weren't going to get a star. So you have to take a chance on one of these coordinators, and you did it. So you got a guy in there. It's time to build up from here. And David Tepper, just stop being a poopy head, to say the least. Commanders. Seems like Ben Johnson's taking that job. They've already said that they don't want Belichick, which kind of depresses me because I feel like he could build a little dynasty over there. The Commanders are, the Washington football team, whatever you call them. Back in the 80s, 90s, 70s, they were a team. They were a dynasty. They were football. But for the last 20 years, they've been a joke. And I feel like Bill could have brought some real football, meaning to that team. But of course, they want to pass on an all-time great. That's going to bite them in the ass, to say the least. They're taking a chance on a young coordinator and not a guy who's already proven himself for the last 25 years. So I don't understand it. Passing on all-time greats, you could say that Bill wants too much power, this, that, and the other. Well, it's time to wheel and deal. At least try to say, hey, you could have a final say, but you don't get to pick everybody in the draft. Okay? Try to wheel and deal. Because this guy, Bill Belichick, if you get him even a decent quarterback, he will have your defense looking stout in top 10 in the NFL. No questions about it. So the Commanders passing on Bill Belichick, probably going to Ben Johnson. I don't hate it. Ben Johnson's obviously a good coordinator, but there's no correlation between coordinators and them being head coaches ever in NFL history. It's a shot in the dark. Shane Steichen ended up being a home run for the Indianapolis Colts, my Colts. DeMeco Ryan ended up being a home run for the Texans, my rival with the Colts. He was a defensive coordinator. Shane was the offensive coordinator. There's just no correlation. You can't tell if they're going to be a good head coach because head coaches are not just coordinators. They have to take care of the offense, defense, special teams. They have to coordinate the entire operation. So they're not just focusing on 20 players, they're focusing on 52. So there's just no way of telling. And Bill Belichick's been doing it for 25 years, and they're going to pass on him. And I do not like that. It makes me very frustrated. Now we might have seen Bill's last game as a football head coach, and that pisses me off because he is greatness. And the more greatness we have in this league, the more the ratings are going to keep skyrocketing. So yeah, I hope Bill finds a job next year when someone gets fired, or he finds a job this offseason, someone gets fired. I don't know. I hope he doesn't have to wait till 2025 to beat Shula's record. So that's my thoughts on the coaching situations, guys. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what you think about all these teams passing up on Bill Belichick. I know there was some other coaching hires, wasn't there? Those are the four main teams that I actually cared about talking. Gerard Mayo, Patriots, whatever, It's a move. But yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you guys listening. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, give it this podcast a 5-star review, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.